Hey there, welcome to Dreamonomics, and today we're diving deep into one of the most fundamental, yet most misunderstood ideas in all of economics, the market mechanism. Don't worry, it sounds intimidating, but it's actually about something you already experience every single day. How prices are born, why they change, and how invisible forces shape everything you buy or sell. The magic of the market. Let's start simple. Imagine you're at a local market on a Saturday morning. You're walking between the fruit stalls, apples, bananas, strawberries, and you notice something strange. Even though there's no single person organising the prices, somehow everything makes sense. The apples cost roughly the same no matter which stall you go to. Bananas are a bit more expensive this week, maybe fewer shipments came in, and that one guy who tried selling overpriced mangoes, he's standing alone, with no customers. No one told these sellers how much to charge, and yet, order appears out of chaos. That, my friend, is the market mechanism in action. Economists describe the market as a meeting point, the place where buyers and sellers interact. But here's the cool part, it doesn't have to be a literal marketplace. When you buy an iPhone online, trade Bitcoin, or even pay rent, you're in a market. Every market is simply the interaction between those who want to buy something and those who want to sell it. Perfect competition, the ideal world. Now, economists love to build models because reality is messy, so they imagine a perfectly competitive market, an idealised world where a few key rules apply. There are so many buyers and sellers that no single one can influence prices. Everyone has perfect information. They know all prices, qualities, and alternatives. Every product is identical, no brand power, no emotional advertising, and everyone acts rationally, meaning they try to maximise their benefit. In this world, each participant is a price taker, not a price maker. No single person, not even a giant corporation, can change the market price on their own. Sounds boring, right? But this model is important because it helps us understand how prices should behave in an efficient market. The invisible hand. This brings us to one of the most legendary names in economics, Adam Smith. Let's talk about him for a minute. Smith was born in 1723 in a small Scottish town called Kirkcaldy. He was a philosopher before he was an economist, fascinated by human behaviour, morality, and how people make choices. He studied at Glasgow and Oxford, and his curiosity led him to ask one big question: what makes nations rich? In 1776 he published his groundbreaking book, The Wealth of Nations. Yes, 1776, the same year as the American Declaration of Independence. This book became the foundation of modern economics. In it, Smith introduced an idea that would change how humanity sees the economy forever: the invisible hand. According to Smith, even though people act out of self-interest, their individual actions unintentionally benefit society as a whole. A baker doesn't bake bread to feed you, he does it to earn a living. But because he wants to sell more bread, he keeps the quality high and the price reasonable. You see, his self-interest aligns with your benefit. Smith called this invisible process, where self-interest leads to social good, the invisible hand. It's like an unseen conductor leading an orchestra, making sure every note, every economic decision fits together into a beautiful symphony of order. Pretty poetic for economics, right? A little secret: the Smith paradox. Now here's something most people miss. Smith didn't just write about economics, he also wrote about morality. In another book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, he explored empathy, sympathy, and kindness. He believed humans have both selfish and selfless tendencies, and that the balance between them keeps society functioning. So when people quote Adam Smith to justify pure greed, they're only reading half the story. Smith's invisible hand wasn't an excuse for selfishness. It was a reminder that when markets work right, doing well and doing good can go hand in hand. Did you catch that? When markets work right. Because they don't always. We'll get to that in a later episode. Demand, the heartbeat of the market. Now let's zoom in a bit. The first major force in the market is demand. Demand shows how much of something people are willing and able to buy at different prices. Simple example, if ice cream costs 600 forints, you might buy one. If it drops to 300, maybe you buy 2 or 3. You see how your willingness changes with price? That's the law of demand. As price falls, quantity demanded rises, ceteris paribus, meaning all else equal. But careful, there's a difference between demand and quantity demanded. If the price changes and you move along the same curve, that's a change in quantity demanded. But if something outside the price changes, like your income, your taste, or your expectations, the whole demand curve shifts. For instance, if more people start buying electric cars because of climate awareness, that's a rightward shift. If people expect prices to drop next month, they might delay purchases, shifting demand left. Make sense? Okay, let's keep going. Factors that shift demand. Here's a quick checklist. The 5 big forces that move demand curves. Number of buyers, more people in the market, more demand. Income. For normal goods, higher income means higher demand. For inferior goods, like cheap bus rides, higher income actually means less demand. Related goods, substitutes, coffee versus tea. If coffee gets expensive, people switch to tea. Complements, cars and gasoline. If gas gets expensive, car demand drops. Taste and preferences, new fashion, trends or technology can shift demand overnight. Expectations. If people think prices or incomes will change, they act now. Got that? Perfect. Let's move to the other side of the market. Supply. The other half of the story. If demand is the heartbeat of the market, supply is its backbone. Supply shows how much producers are willing and able to sell at each price. The law of supply says, as prices go up, producers want to sell more, because it's more profitable. Pretty logical, right? If a bakery can sell croissants for 500 frints instead of 300, they'll bake more. If prices fall, they'll cut back. Factors that shift supply. Now, just like demand, supply curves can shift too. Not because of the price itself, but because of outside changes. Input prices, higher wages or raw material cost push supply left, less output. Technology, better machines or AI tools reduce costs, shifting supply right. Expectations, if producers expect higher future prices, they may withhold stock now. Number of sellers, more competitors in the market increase total supply. So whenever you see a news headline like energy prices surge, production slows down, you're seeing supply curve movements in real time. The dance between demand and supply. Now comes the magic moment, when demand and supply meet. Their intersection is called market equilibrium, the point where what people want to buy equals what firms want to sell. That's where the equilibrium price and quantity are determined. If prices are above that point, you get a surplus, too much supply, not enough buyers. If prices are below it, you get a shortage, too many buyers, not enough goods. And the market, like a living organism, reacts automatically. Prices fall when there's surplus, rise when there's shortage, until equilibrium returns. That's why economists say markets have a natural tendency toward balance. It's like gravity. You can disturb it, but it always tries to settle back to a stable point. The principle of economic energy. Here's a nice metaphor. Think of the economy like a ball resting in a bowl. If you push it slightly, it moves, but eventually it rolls back to the centre. That centre is equilibrium. Economists call this the energy minimization principle. Systems naturally move towards stability, unless something external keeps pushing them off balance. Sounds a bit like life, doesn't it? Bringing it all together. So let's sum this up. Adam Smith taught us that individual self-interest can lead to social harmony. The invisible hand. Demand and supply describe how people and firms interact, creating balance through prices. Equilibrium is not just a point, it's the natural rhythm of a market. When you see prices rise or fall, shortages appear, or goods sell out instantly, you're not seeing chaos. You're watching millions of invisible hands adjusting, negotiating, and finding a new balance. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about how powerful that is? Every time you buy a coffee, choose a Netflix subscription, or skip a sale, you're taking part in a massive global orchestra of decisions, and none of it has a conductor. Just people like you and me. That's the beauty of the market mechanism. It's the invisible coordination of human choices. You see, economics isn't about numbers or formulas, it's about people. But here's something fascinating. Even though markets tend toward balance, people don't react to changes equally. Some goods are sensitive. A tiny price change can make people rush or panic. Others barely move no matter what happens. This sensitivity, this responsiveness, is what economists call elasticity. Elasticity, the market's sensitivity. So imagine stretching a rubber band. Some bands stretch easily, they're elastic. Others are stiff and barely move, they're inelastic. Now, replace that rubber band with the demand for a product. If you raise the price of chocolate by 10%, do people buy much less? If yes, that demand is elastic. If you raise the price of insulin by 10%, do people still buy it? Of course they do. They need it to live. That's inelastic. Elasticity tells us how strongly quantity reacts when price, income, or other factors change. You see, it's not just about more or less, it's about how much more or how much less. The math without the headache. Okay, there's a formula, but don't worry, we'll keep it simple. Economists define price elasticity of demand as E equals the percent of the change in quantity demanded divided by the percent of the change in price. If you're allergic to math, think of it like this. Elasticity measures how dramatic people's reactions are to a price change. If the result's greater than 1, the demand is elastic. People react strongly. If it's less than 1, it's inelastic. People barely care. If it's exactly 1, it's unit elastic. Price and demand change in perfect balance. Pretty intuitive, right? The ice cream test. Let's say an ice cream shop raises the price from 600 to 700 forints, and sales drop from 100 cones a day to 80. Price went up by about 17%, and quantity went down by 20%. 20 divided by 17, that's roughly 1.17. So, elasticity equals negative 1.17. The negative sign just shows that when price goes up, demand goes down. Meaning demand is elastic and people are price sensitive when it comes to ice cream. Now imagine that happening with bread instead. Would sales drop as much? Probably not. Bread's a necessity. It's inelastic. You see how human nature hides in these numbers? Real-world implications. Elasticity matters everywhere. For businesses, for governments, even for you. Businesses use it to decide whether to raise prices or not. Governments use it to predict how taxes will affect revenue. Consumers unconsciously react to it every time they shop. Think about fuel. Even if prices spike, people still drive to work. Demand barely drops. That's why fuel taxes bring in steady revenue. But luxury vacations raise prices just a little and demand collapses. They're paradoxical reactions. Now here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes people don't follow the law of demand. Sometimes when prices go up, demand goes up too. We call these paradoxical effects. Let me give you 4 fun examples. The speculative effect. When people think prices will rise even higher, they buy more now. Think crypto in 2021. The higher it went, the more people rushed in. The quality effect. When something's expensive, people assume it's better. Luxury brands live on this. The bandwagon effect. People buy something just because others are buying it. The snob effect. People avoid things because too many others are buying them. You see? Elasticity isn't just numbers, it's psychology in disguise, the middle ground, the ARC formula. Now here's a little technical detail for the curious minds. Economists noticed that elasticity changes depending on where you measure it. So they came up with a neutral method called the midpoint formula, or ARC elasticity. It uses the average of the starting and ending values instead of just one side. That way it doesn't matter whether prices rise or fall, you get the same result. It's like measuring from the centre of a rope rather than one end. Balanced, fair, consistent. See how even math can be poetic sometimes? Elasticity and revenue, the business side. Let's bring this into real life again. Suppose you run an online store selling digital art prints for $10 each. You sell 100 prints a month, so your total revenue is $1,000. Now you raise your price to $12. If your sales fall to 95 prints, great. Your revenue actually increased, $1,140. That means your demand was inelastic. People didn't mind the higher price. But if your sales drop to 60 prints, your revenue falls to $720. Demand was elastic. So the big insight here is this. When demand is elastic, raising prices hurts your revenue. When demand is inelastic, raising prices helps it. Simple, powerful, universal. Every company you know, from Apple to Starbucks, runs that calculation daily. A quick brain check. Let me test you for a second. If insulin prices go up, what happens to total revenue for the sellers? Exactly, so it goes up. Because people can't simply stop buying insulin, and that's inelastic demand. Now if plane ticket prices go up by 20%, what happens? Most people delay or cancel vacations. Total revenue drops. Elastic demand. You see how this all fits together now? Beyond price, income elasticity. Now, elasticity isn't only about prices. It's also about income. how your purchasing power affects what you buy. Economists call this income elasticity of demand. Let's break it down. When your income rises and you buy more of something, it's a normal good. Example, better clothes, nicer restaurants. When your income rises and you buy less of something, like instant noodles or bus rides, it's an inferior good. And when your income rises and your spending increases more than proportionally, like on jewellery or holidays, that's a luxury good. So income elasticity isn't just about money, it's about what money means to you. Makes sense, right? Cross-price elasticity, when products compete or cooperate. Now imagine two products living side by side, say burgers and hot dogs. If burger prices go up, what happens to hot dog sales? They go up too, because people switch. That's positive cross-price elasticity. The goods are substitutes. But what about cars and gasoline? If gas prices rise, car demand drops. That's negative cross-price elasticity. The goods are complements. And if one has no effect on the other, like umbrellas and smartphones, elasticity is zero. These relationships explain why markets are like ecosystems. Change one price and a dozen other prices ripple in response. You see, every market is connected. Elasticity of supply, the producer's side. We've talked a lot about consumers. Now let's flip the lens. Elasticity of supply measures how responsive producers are when prices change. When prices go up, can they easily make more? If yes, supply is elastic. For example, a software company can instantly increase digital sales, no physical limits. But farmers, they can't grow more wheat overnight. Their supply is inelastic. Over time, though, supply often becomes more elastic. Firms can build new factories, hire workers, expand. That's why short-term price spikes often calm down in the long run. The market adjusts. Real-world elasticity in action. Think about housing. In most big cities, housing supply is incredibly inelastic. You can't just build apartments overnight, so when demand surges, prices explode. But electronics like smartphones or TVs are more elastic. Factories can ramp up production quickly. That's why tech prices fall fast once competition enters. Elasticity is basically the speed of adjustment, how fast the market can respond to change. The human element, psychology behind the curves. Now here's where economics meets emotion. Elasticity isn't just numbers or graphs, it's people reacting to incentives. Why do luxury brands raise prices and sell more? Because humans don't only buy utility, we buy identity. Why do some consumers ignore price hikes on Netflix or Spotify? Because it's not about the price. It's about convenience and habit. You see, elasticity exposes our values. What we truly care about stays stable. What we don't flexes easily. Elasticity in society. Elasticity also helps governments make smarter decisions. For example, if the government wants to tax something, it usually targets goods with inelastic demand, like alcohol, tobacco, or gasoline, because people won't stop buying even if prices rise. But taxing elastic goods like luxury fashion or electronics just drives consumers away and kills revenue. So behind every tax, subsidy, or price regulation, there's an economist somewhere whispering, "Wait, how elastic is it?" Wrapping it all up. Alright, let's bring this home. Elasticity isn't just about curves and equations, it's about how we respond to change. It tells us how flexible we are as consumers, how adaptive firms are as producers, and how resilient the entire market system can be. When we understand elasticity, we start to see the rhythm of the economy, when it stretches, when it snaps, and when it returns to shape. You see, the market isn't just a machine, it's alive. So next time you notice a price change, maybe your favourite cafe raises coffee by 50 forints, take a moment. Ask yourself, how will people react? Will they stop coming or shrug and pay? Because in that reaction lies the entire story of economics, the human heartbeat behind the numbers. That's it for today's chapter of Dreamonomics. In the next one, we'll go even deeper into consumer and producer surplus and how markets measure happiness, fairness, and efficiency. Because remember, economics isn't just about wealth, it's about well-being. See you in the next episode.